The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Well, I said you'd know how things were going for me by the first sentence of every show this week. And the first sentence of today's show is crap. Yesterday was not a great one for squad Dan Besbris for so many, many reasons. I had a bunch of guys that just weren't good for whatever reason. Unclear exactly why that may be. Unclear. But these, the ebb and flow, you guys know how this thing is very much an ebb and a flow. And it ebbed. I hope you guys had better players on Tuesday night. Massive card that went the wrong way for a lot of guys. Gary Harris being one of them. Streaming option we were talking about. Not good. Nemanja Bjelica got off to a really good start in that game and then just sort of vanished. Kevin Love, brutal shooting game. He doubled, but I mean, come on, no three-pointers. Only 10 points, 5 turnovers. And then for whatever reason, nobody was doing anything on the defensive side. At least it wasn't that different for my particular opponent, but still, it's a little bit of an uphill battle all of a sudden. So here we go. It's Wednesday, DFS Day. Usually, as of the time of recording this portion of the podcast, I don't know if we have a contest coming up. I've heard nothing. Hopefully by the morning, remember I'm recording half of this show in the evening and half in the morning. Hopefully by the morning, we'll have more information on that. So if I do, I'll update it in the middle of the podcast. But for now, we are going to operate as though there is a contest coming, and we'll alter course if there isn't. So I'm going to tell you here at the outset that we'll likely be talking to Mike Apotria at about the halfway point of today's podcast. I would love to. I hope that that's what happens. But because it's a very short Wednesday, I think DK, or I'm abbreviating it, DraftKings is considering maybe moving it to a different day or possibly even moving it to next week. So we'll see how that shakes out. I'm going to assume it's coming either today or tomorrow. And if they tell us otherwise, then we'll just roll with it. So that's likely coming up later in the podcast. We're obviously going to talk a little bit more about streaming stuff. We got a big Tuesday card to recap as we get set for a slightly smaller Wednesday, where somehow I ended up with a lot of guys playing tonight, all part of our streaming plan, I suppose. This is sort of the day where you can try to push out in front a little in games played, because then the rest of the week is a fairly even blend. This is Fantasy NBA Today, everybody. I think I forgot to say that at the outset. Fantasy NBA Today, your daily podcast here at hoop-ball.com. Hoop Ball! Hoop Ball. Losing my mind slowly but surely here. I kind of need these playoffs to be over, but I also don't want them to end unless I'm putting cash in my pocket. That's where we sit on that one. Apologies, guys. I'm telling you, I am all out of sorts. I'm all out of sorts right now. My stomach's in knots. These things are driving me up the wall crazy. Let's just roll right into the Tuesday stuff. Do some recap here, and we'll talk streaming as we go through. That's one of the things that I think I've wanted to correct as I've gone through the shows over the last week and a half or so. I've tried to cut it into a box score section and a streaming section when right from the outset, and I'll remember this for next year because I'm writing it down, just roll them all together. I mean, it's all a blend. It's all a blend. This podcast and all shows at Hoop Ball are brought to you by our good friends at Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. I hope that you have checked them out. If you haven't, it's hawaiianisles.com is the website. Search for Hawaiian Isles on Amazon, or check them out on Twitter at HIKona Coffee, HIKONA Coffee. You know how to spell that, I suppose. HIKona Coffee on Twitter. They're our buddies, they're our partners, they're our sponsors. They are amazing, and they are flooding the Hoop Ball gullet with delicious, delicious coffee and caffeine, which is what many of us need, except yours truly because of my irritable bowels. So for me, it's like mainlining pixie sticks. That's my only way to wake up in the morning. Let's talk Tuesday. And we'll talk streaming as we work our way through it. San Antonio losing in Charlotte. I was looking at the NBA standings. I'm so easily distracted. I know Brew likes to say, there's a dog with a puffy tail. And that's where I'm going right now. I was looking at the NBA standings late on Tuesday afternoon. And one thing that really jumped out to me about some of the playoff teams, which, by the way, 5 of them have now clinched a playoff berth, the first 5 seeds, is that there are only a couple of Western Conference playoff teams that look like they have the mettle to win some games on the road. The Warriors, obviously, they're an easy one. The Rockets can win some games on the road. They've been okay. And then here's the surprise. The Clippers, and I got to believe that's Patrick Beverley. Like, in a nutshell, that's Pat Beverley. Going out on the road and just thumping people. Lou Williams, too, who's just so clutch and so consistent. But the Clippers are 22-17. They have the second best road record in the Western Conference. Their home record is actually not out that stunning. Maybe that's why they want to build their own arena. Like, it's funny little footnote here. The Mavericks have a home record that's almost exactly the same as the Clippers. I think it's like a game worse. And the Clippers are 15 games better on the road than Dallas. That's your comparison between the 5 seed and the 14 seed in the Western Conference. But the flip side of what I was talking about there is there are a lot of teams in the Western Conference that look really pedestrian on the road. Some of them outright bad. The Spurs are now 14-24 on the road. They're going to likely be the 8 seed. I think they have some road games coming up, so they'll be fighting their way through those. The Thunder are a 500 team on the road. The Jazz are basically a 500 team on the road. The Blazers are a game under 500 on the road. Nuggets, only 2 games over. It's really something. And it's not really the same in the Eastern Conference. The Bucks, the Raptors are both very good on the road. And then almost everyone else in the East is bad. Like, there aren't that many middling road teams. Sixers are 18-18. Celtics are 18-19. The Heat, by the way, are actually a winning road team. Everybody else in the Eastern Conference is just a total clunker on the road. It's pretty funny, actually. The Wizards are 8-28 on the road. This team is a team that thought they had a chance to make the playoffs. Yeesh. Yeesh, I say. I don't know why I got into that little footnote. Anyway, Spurs losing in Charlotte. That was the point of all that. Dwayne Bacon, big ball game, 36 minutes, 24 points, 6 boards, 3 steals, and a block. They do have a back-to-back later this week if you feel like, or not a back-to-back. They go 2 in the last 3. If you feel like rolling the dice. I don't have the gumption to do that, unless they shut Kemba Walker down, and then anything could go. Jeremy Lamb turned his ankle in this one. I'm losing my mind here. My opponent this week had 3 guys on Tuesday night that were all game-time decisions, and all 3 of them played. My whole team was healthy, and I lost a guy mid-game, and that was Jeremy Lamb, so that sucks. I think you have to drop him. I know that sucks, but they have 2 days off, and then they only have 2 games the rest of the way. He'd probably be back off waivers if you wanted to get him on Friday. Of course, the problem here is there are no teams with a back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday. So it's not like you could pick up somebody for a back-to-back and then flip back to Jeremy Lamb. That's not an option. So if you make the move away from him, it would likely be the instance you could only maybe grab him again on Sunday. I don't think you could do the Friday move. You'd need to make sure you're getting 2 games out of somebody else before you go get him back again. And there are plenty of teams that fit that mold. I am, in all likelihood, going to pick somebody up with 3 games and dump Jeremy Lamb. I don't think he's going to get an injured tag, and I'd rather make the move today because the number of teams playing 3 games starting today versus tomorrow is much larger. There are, I think, 2 or 3 teams. Denver, the Clippers, the Kings, I think, are the 3 teams that go 3 times starting on Thursday for the rest of the week. But if you expand it to Wednesday, you get the Wizards, you get the Blazers that are also involved in this little situation. The Thunder have 3 games starting today. The Grizzlies, the Lakers, the Pacers, the Warriors also get added to the mix. So it drastically increases the number of teams that you could pick from that still have 3 games left over the rest of the week. So that's a big deal. Now, how do you pick who you're actually going to select? Well, you basically just have to go based on what your league has available. It's going to be different for everybody. Look through all those teams I just mentioned, and I think you got to get out from Jeremy Lamb. This is why you hold on to a couple of your moves for the end of the week. This is, unfortunately, one of those 2 emergency moves, and I think you got to make it on a Wednesday. It sucks. You just have to try to grade out what categories you got a best chance to win and go get somebody who's going to definitely play 3 games as opposed to someone who may play 0. Totally sucks. Spurs only have a couple games left the rest of the week. LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan were good. In this one, you got better games out of Bryn Forbes and Marco Bellinelli. I don't know if that's something you can really trust going forward. Jakob Poeltl missed a bunch of free throws, but otherwise, he got you rebounds and blocks and made all 3 of his shots. Derek White will be better, and Rudy Gay was fine as well. Nothing of real note there. Boston scored 116 points to beat the Cavaliers without Kyrie Irving, who never plays back in Cleveland. Marcus Smart had 21. Jason Tatum had 21. Horford played. He had 19. Terry Rozier, he's always your backup with Kyrie, who will likely be back for that back-to-back the Celtics have on Friday and Saturday. So I'm not too interested in Boston. I'm also not too interested in Cleveland. They only go twice the rest of the week, Thursday, Saturday, and they're a pretty predictable bunch right now. Kevin Love will usually be better. Jordan Clarkson is scoring. Larry Nance is a 9-cat guy. Osman and Sexton are both scoring. Colin Sexton needs to learn how to pass like yesterday. He missed so many open teammates just leaping into defenders and throwing it wildly at the rim. He could actually be pretty good. He's very fast, and he can score, but he's got to figure out where his teammates are. Then you start to see a team getting better. Chicago, no Chris Dunn, no Zach LaVine, so Shaq Harrison made for a very good short stream here on the back-to-back. Then you got to get rid of your Bulls because they play 1 game the rest of the week after tonight. Harrison is the easy one because you know he's going to get you some steals. Everybody else is a little bit of a question mark. This was a wider separation in this ballgame than the final score would indicate. Wayne Selden still played 40 minutes, though. I don't know, man. I mean, I doubt Zach LaVine is playing tonight. If he was ruled out yesterday so early, Chris Dunn, I would assume kind of the same thing. Toronto also 2 games the rest of the week. OG Anunoby hit his head, but I don't know if that's going to change the outlook for many of these guys. This was a blowout. The minutes were insanely low. And if you have Raptors, this is one that you just sort of have to file away and hope you got enough out of your guy before the game was done. Orlando, a win in Miami. The Magic are really playing good basketball these days. It's a well-rounded attack. They're getting contributions from a bunch of different places, and they just pushed the Heat out of the playoffs. Can you believe that? Orlando, 6 wins in a row. Unexpected though it may be. The Hornets now, by the way, have won 4 in a row. And they're still knocking on the door. The Eastern Conference now basically is a 10-team race. Wizards have fallen apart. They're out of it. Pistons have lost 3 in a row. They're in jeopardy of falling out of it. The Nets actually are sort of in jeopardy. I think they're in okay shape just because of the number of teams separating them, but there's only 2.5 games between Brooklyn and the Hornets, the 6 and 10 seed. So it's clustered, man. They're fighting, which is a shame because very few of those teams have a good playoff schedule the rest of this week. The Magic knocked out 2 of their 4 games already, and everybody else was only going to have 2 at this point anyway. Started with 3. Wizards, who are not in the mix anymore, they still have 3 games left this week, but they were not one of the teams we just talked about. I lost my train of thought. Miami. Dwayne Wade farewell tour continues. He had 22 in this one. Adebayo looked good again. Hassan Whiteside actually looked okay for his 15 minutes, but it wasn't enough to do any damage. Kelly Olynyk has trended down. Not enough minutes or touches for Goran Dragic when he's not running super hot. And Miami is back to having too many mouths to feed. Magic are pretty easy. Vooch, Isaac, Fournier, Gordon, Ross, Augustine right now. DJ's playing well. But then, again, their schedule slows down. Houston got beat up a little bit by Milwaukee. This one ended up as a 14-point game, but they fought. Clamped down on Harden, man. Milwaukee's good. Make no mistake. They're a real team that got killed by injuries, and I just hope that they can get close to healthy before the time is right. Eric Bledsoe was the guy who went nuts in this one. Eric Bledsoe. Clint Capella, solid. Chris Paul, solid. Daniel House, he continues to beat my idea of a regression, but again, you're looking for teams with a better schedule the rest of the way, and Houston's just not one of them. Neither's Milwaukee. So how badly do you want to venture out to these guys? Mostly streaming options for teams that don't have particularly good streaming schedules. Atlanta 130, New Orleans 120. I mean, this was a pretty easy one to pick a good fantasy player in. A lot of them. Trae Young, 33 and 12. Dwayne Dedmon continues to just rumble. DeAndre Bembry was good. Vince Carter hit 4 more three-pointers. A lot of really nice streaming options on the Atlanta Hawks. And a few on the New Orleans side, too. Christian Wood picked up and then thrown in there for 31 minutes, and he had 3 steals and 6 blocks. Hello. Check Diallo didn't play much, near did Jahlil Okafor. I mean, they're in full tank mode now. Frank Jackson hurt his head in this ball game. He had 20 points already. So what does that mean? I don't know. More Kenrick Williams? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter really with this team. You can trust Elfrid Payton. You can trust Julius Randle. Anybody else is a bit of a roll of the dice. I don't know how badly you want to do it. And again, schedule is not perfect. Another 2-gamer. Clippers, they've got 3 games left. Garrett Temple's been playing well. No Landry Shamet, so that was more Temple. He had 5 threes and 2 steals in this game. That's a pretty good streaming opportunity. I don't know if he's coming back for the next one. Patrick Beverley hurt his hip after playing only 18 minutes, so he might be out. Clippers are getting interesting. Gilgeous-Alexander, more value. Lou Williams' value goes up. His was already pretty good, and it's increasing. So it does change things a little bit. Gallo's going to do more. I mean, I guess you could look at Garrett Temple. Clippers play 3 games starting on Thursday, so that opens up a little bit for you. Problem is you got to make sure that Shamet and or Beverley are not going to be playing. Minnesota, just 2 games left the rest of this week, and it's a back-to-back. So if you're dealing with them on a streaming option, it's going to be Friday, Saturday. 9 category guys. Towns, it looks like Okogie is one now, and so is Tyus Jones. And then guys like Wiggins are always going to be overheld. Dario Saric is a possibility for a stream. Play it as it comes. Sacramento, Dallas. Dallas, I mean, this is a hard tank job late in this ballgame. They just didn't even let Doncic play that much late. He was crushing. Maxi Kleber was good. Dwight Powell was outstanding. You pretty much know what you got with that team. And again, just 2 games left the rest of the week, Thursday and Sunday. Sacramento, 3 games left the rest of this week. This was a weird one for them. They got contributions from a bunch of different spots. Harrison Barnes, Nemanja Bjelica, De'Aaron Fox, Bogdanovic finally had a decent ball game. Willie Cauley-Stein resurfaced. Buddy Hield was okay, but not great. And they squeezed this one out. Marvin Bagley wasn't even that good. And they managed to pull it off because, Dallas wasn't actually trying to win. Magic of that situation. I don't think anybody on your league is going to be available with Sacramento. Bjelica, maybe. Maybe Bogdan got dropped. But again, 3 games the rest of the week makes them a nice spot if you're looking for it. And it's Thursday to Sunday as well, so it buys you a little bit more time if you want to let somebody go today, a Wednesday player, that maybe then only has 2 games left the rest of the week, or even 1 game left the rest of the week. Not a ton of those, but they exist. And trade him in for a newer model. This, by the way, is also your time if you want to pick up a pacer. You could do it today. They have 3 games over the next 4 days. They're in that mix, then you could use that spot at the end of the year, but there aren't that many good pacers available right now. Detroit made a big comeback in Denver. It was not enough. Wayne Ellington got his 4 3-pointers. Otherwise, things were pretty much as expected. Jamal Murray finally had a big ball game. Mason Plumlee double-doubled. Millsap played 40 minutes in this one. Barton, Jokic, good. And then Gary Harris was the odd man out of the starting 5. Which is weird, too, because no Malik Beasley, so Harris got the full run of the minutes, and he just couldn't do anything with them. Wasn't even being guarded by anybody all that great. He just couldn't do anything. And then finally you get into the weirdness of the late one. Lakers and Wiz. And it is goofy. I mentioned KCP as someone I thought would be a fantastic pickup, and it looks like he will be. He's just got the run of the roost these days beyond LeBron. I mean, honestly, he's taken as many shots as Bron. On a lot of accounts. They're trying to keep LeBron's minutes a little bit lower. JaVale McGee is cruising these days. Kuzma's worth using. It might be those 4. And then with Washington, they just keep rotating bodies around. Bobby Portis came off the bench to start the ball game because Trevor Ariza gave it a go. He wasn't any good. Portis stayed off the bench in the second half, and Jeff Green started the second half. Thomas Bryant got the start, but was slowed by JaVale McGee and the Lakers' pace and sort of the up and down kind of street ball-y style of this one. Bradley Beal was good. Satoransky got his assists more than he does the scoring. That's mostly his game. Wizards still have 3 games the rest of the week, and now it seems like with Ariza re-hurting his groin, I don't think he's going to be pushing it anytime soon. So probably not playing tonight in the back-to-back. I don't know what they're going to be considering with the Utah-Denver games in altitude, but it certainly makes all of the other Wizards more useful again. Jeff Green, Thomas Bryant, Bobby Portis, Jabari Parker, Sato, all of those guys get a bump knowing that Ariza is back out again. That's your long Tuesday card, complete with streaming opportunities. Wednesday's a shorter card. Mentioned it on yesterday's podcast. Just 5 games coming up tonight. Golden State is in Memphis. Memphis was a team we mentioned early on the week as a potential streaming opportunity, and they still are, with 3 games the rest of the week starting tonight. They go tonight, and then they've got a back-to-back over the weekend. Golden State, their week starts tonight, so they also have 3 games left. Portland, 3 games left the rest of the week. This is a really interesting day if you're trying to buy in on teams right now. Chicago, just 2 more games this week. Indiana at Oklahoma City. Both of those teams still with 3 games the rest of the way. Washington, still 3 games. They're in Phoenix against the Suns team. Only 2 games, but should make for some pretty juicy opportunities. Nobody playing defense in that one. And the Lakers and the Jazz. Lakers still with 3 games. Utah just with 2. This is a tough one for LA, flying into altitude on the back-to-back. If you have some Lakers, this is a spot where you want to be pretty careful with them. Just hope that they kind of survive the evening. And now I'm going to do a guest because, well, why the hell not? So things are a little bit different today for any number of reasons. We've profiled some of the streaming stuff, the weird things that have gone on already this week. And one of the weird things that's gone on already this week is that it seems like our good friends over at DraftKings didn't end up getting our contest set up. So I don't know what that's about. I assume that they have their reasons, and that's fine. We'll just get one going next week, I guess, unless maybe they'll have one fired up for Thursday or Friday. But that doesn't mean that you guys can't play DFS, and thank the good Lord I convinced Mike Apotria that that's a good idea. He's playing all the time, by the way. I hope you guys could catch the sarcasm in that. And that means I get to talk to another human being on the podcast. Hooray! Mike, good afternoon.
Good morning, Dan.
Yeah, we're so good at this now.
We got it keyed up. It's basically just a voiceover. I just hit a button just so I don't screw it up. It just says good morning.
Yeah, you got a soundboard over there.
That's the next step. We should get one on here. We get some good sound drops.
Oh yeah, we'll be like a morning radio drive time show. Hey, Mike Apotria on the show today. We'll do the. Did you ever see that Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode where they try to do their own podcast and they lay it on super thick, like all of the most obnoxious podcasts out there? Maybe I'm one of them. I don't know. I've been called pedantic, Mike. It's a fun episode. They go into this high voice to try to make fun of the broadcast. They go like this, and they get really excited about everything. So far, I haven't really had to do that on the pod, but that and then soundboard. That's our next step to really take this thing to the next level. So what do we do instead? You had a great idea. You told me before we came on air. What do we do instead? Since I know people still want to play DFS today with the Hoop Ballers, but we don't have the official room open.
It's true. So what I'm thinking is we can just kind of host our own little private room. The difference being is if it doesn't fill up, the contest doesn't run. So we'd absolutely have to be sure it fills up, and then we have to wonder how many spots should we make it. It's looking at it generally in this contest that we run weekly. We have anywhere from, I would say, 60 to 80 people guaranteed.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, guaranteed for sure. I mean, there was a nice stretch there where it was like 110, but you don't want to go that high and then miss the mark.
Yeah, exactly, because then everyone misses out, and this might be your only contest, the only one you look forward to playing every week, and I don't want to be the reason why you don't get to have some fun tonight. So I'm thinking 20 is about the minimum. I think we can easily fill that, especially if we decide to make it, multi-entry again, because I think it's a good way for some people to practice is weekly in this contest if you ever want to get into larger GPPs and multi-enter. So maybe we'll shoot for about 50. That means you're going to have to reserve an entry because if at 50, I'm expecting it to fill. Cross your fingers. I think a few retweets out there, guys, and we can get this thing going.
All right, so we got a reason to do it then, Mike. So let's go through our normal process here and start with last week, which was, I honestly, there's so many things going through my head that I don't even remember what the heck happened last week. What happened last week? Did you win?
No, I got creamed last week. No, last week was one of my, it was one of my bad days. I went one way and the correct lineups went the complete opposite way. But that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And I tweeted it out later and I was like, let's just get the next slate. That's it. Sometimes it doesn't work.
So now I've been able to pull it up. Last week we had Neo Mark and Tyler Braun took first and second place. I think I mentioned that. Our own Josh Millman actually had two lineups that placed. He had a monster lineup that got fourth. And he had a nearly monster lineup that ended up with 10th place. So Millman took home some cash in last week's contest. I was right down with you in this one. I think you were 48th and I was 45th. And Damian Lillard was one of the ones you suggested. He had a really nice ball game. Jabari Parker, you suggested. He had a big one. Freddie VanVleet was sort of like the free square. Chris Middleton was a free square. And then we ventured into some other spots and got creamed. And Julius Randle was the one for me that fell apart, and it looks like you had him in a lineup as well. If not for Julius Randle, it could have been a decent week for us.
Yeah, and Daniel House underperformed a little bit. He was, a popular play. That game went into overtime, and he still only scored barely under 13 DraftKings points. 55% ownership. That would have been a nice one to fade. And then I was hoping for that Dwayne Wade, farewell Popovich kind of thing going on over there. He's going to play 32 minutes, throw it back, have a 26, 7, and 6 kind of game. But that didn't turn out that way. They did the whole ceremony before the game. He gave him a jersey autographed by Ginobili, Parker, and Duncan, but we didn't get the performance to go with it.
Yeah, I had D Wade as well. You really needed a monster week from almost everybody last time around, because just to place in last week's contest, you needed 310 DFS points. That's a whopper, isn't? I mean, that's a relatively high one, considering I think the week before you only needed like 260, 270 just to place.
And it goes to show, it's exactly what I always say. It's about the slate in general, and on certain slates you can go with just raw scoring. And in other slates, you need to take ownership and fading certain players and upside into account.
So I have to admit, Mike, I've done zero prep for tonight because I was waiting to find out if we had an actual DraftKings room set up. And when I didn't hear anything, I thought, all right, well, I'm going to go to bed. And so I got nothing. I got nothing ready to go right now. I've been spending all of my time, and we're going to segue. We're actually going to pivot away from DFS here for a second. I've been spending all of my time trying to figure out how to get through my finals week. I'm also trying to figure out how to get my computer to stop sending me alerts when things are trending on Reddit. That was what that noise was. Please stop, computer. Please stop. I beg of you. I don't even know. I don't even go to Reddit. I don't know how that happened. And so, Mike, I'm going to start by asking you first. How are your head-to-head leagues going? This is, you've got your home league that you like to talk about. What's the haps, man? We only get to talk once a week.
So I got eliminated out of the home league. I'm not very happy about it. Yes,
no, you can't let that happen.
I'm not very happy about it, but I brought one of my good buddies he's a good friend of everybody that's in the hometown league. We always have like one or two floater spots in the league where we have a guy that's in it for 2 years and he takes a year or two off. So my buddy, he's a Marine, so he's serving, and he's down in North Carolina. He was overseas for quite some time before the season started. I got him to be a huge basketball fan. It gives him something to look forward to, and you got to draft a team. He kind of is my my Padawan, I guess you could say. I try to teach him a lot about fantasy and DFS, so he's always out there, and he's in the finals. So
you taught him too much.
It's like having a second lineup in there, and I'm rooting for him right now. He's in the finals. He's been working the wire. I can honestly say harder than me this year. He's been grinding, and his team deserves to be there. He's got a good team.
You taught him too much, Mike. You always got to leave your trainees like one key fact behind so that you can keep beating them. I guess if you're going to lose, Mike, it might as well to be someone serving the country, right? I think we can probably agree on that part.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's when a guy's overseas and he gets, an hour phone call every once in a while and he calls you just to talk basketball, you got to pour the knowledge out.
Yeah, that's where you really got to give him the full bucket. But that's the thing though, you got to make sure that you don't play him in the semis then, Mike. That's where you went wrong. You got to make sure you wait until the finals so at least you can take home a second place prize. I assume this league, first and second, do they both pay for you?
Yeah, first and second. But this is a long play, Dan. Now I got him next season. So when he's looking for those long phone calls, I'm gonna be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Shaq Harrison's worth the pickup at the beginning of the season now.
Yeah.
You should do that.
Yeah, that's right. You lead him astray just so you can get him to make some key drops and you can stash his guys. That's just mean. So here's what I got going on right now, Mike. This is how far I've gone into the deep end on this stuff. And I would actually suggest this for anybody in a similar situation. I know that I've been told that sometimes I reference my own team too many times on this show, and so my hope is that when people hear me discussing things that are going on for me, they can apply it to similar situations going on for themselves. So here's what I'm looking at right now, and maybe some of you out there are staring down the barrel of a same situation. Weekly moves limit in these in my head-to-head league. I think most have that situation. If you don't have a moves limit, then you can just stream like 6 roster slots, and that's crazy. And everyone will be on waivers all the time. So you should have a moves limit. It's 4 and in my league, but it's not necessarily 4 for everybody. It's a small number. Let's assume it's somewhere between 3 and 5. And at the beginning of the week, we like to try to load up on guys with 4-game weeks. So 1 or 2 moves gets used the first 1 to 2 days of the week, leaving you anywhere from 1 to 3 moves to use the rest of the week on injuries, emergencies, and then the last day if you're trying to sort of category hunt to maybe you can steal 1 extra category from your opponent. And then a guy goes down relatively early in the week. And for me, it was Jeremy Lamb. And I'm guessing a lot of hoop ballers had that same problem because he was sort of a hoop ball guy this year. He's been great. He turned an ankle. Apparently, he left the arena feeling fine, the report now says. But this is a weird spot where you sort of don't know what to do. They only have 2 games the rest of the week. They don't play until Friday. So you'd be sitting on a guy with 2 off days just to wait and find out if he's playing. Before I even get into what I've now started to do, because I need more time to finish it, to combat this situation, Mike, what do you do in this spot? Because I think I'm dropping him even if he ends up like with a questionable tag, meaning he could play on Friday. He could be a game time decision. I don't think I can wait that long. I think I got to make sure I get 3 games out of somebody the rest of the week. You're in one of the most difficult fantasy positions you could be in, and it's an ankle injury too. So these things you can leave the arena feeling fine, but they swell up the next day when you take your shoe off, and you feel it 10 times worse after. And it might be something that he says he can play on, and yes, a few days rest is great. But by then, there's going to be other things to take into account. The Heat, I believe, are playing again. The standings are going to change. Does he need to come back, and will they need him back? I'm with you, Dan. I don't think I can risk it. If you have somebody out there, I don't know who's exactly available on your waiver, and sometimes that can be taken into account. Who are you exactly dropping them for, and the necessary upside? Or if you're just streaming them would you be streaming them for multiple spots now? You're saying in between? Well, most likely I would just drop him for somebody with 3 games the rest of the week. That would be the goal here, where at least I would gain 1 game. Even if Lamb plays Friday and Sunday, his maximum is 2 games the rest of the week. I would pick up someone from the, I think it's like 7 or 8 teams that have 3 games starting tonight, where my worst case scenario is I gain a game, but Lamb plays anyway. Best case scenario, if I make the move, is I gain 3 games. What if Jeremy Lamb doesn't play Friday and Sunday? Because then you've waited, you've missed out, you've thrown up a goose egg where you could have picked up, a Nugget or a Warrior or a Pacer or a Clipper or a Laker or a Wiz that's playing 3 times the rest of the week. There are options out there on those teams right now, especially because only 2 teams are still paying attention in these head-to-head leagues.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially when you say the Wizards. They debated on resting Bradley Beal over the last stretch of the season. So Might see him sit out a game or two, and then you really see some value for
Portland too, by the way. Blazers have 3 games the rest of the way, and they've got all sorts of names popping up right now.
Yeah, I don't know if Canner's available or, Collins I'm expecting to see about 24, 25 minutes. We'll get to both those guys later when we talk some DFS, but if those guys are available anywhere, they're must-adds. It shouldn't even be a question at this point. I mean, obviously Canner, but, deeper leagues and guys that are looking for those 3 games, you can be assured that Canner still can't play defense. He's going to get exposed on defense, and they're going to want to put somebody in there that could play against the rim. So Collins is still going to see minutes.
I agree. I completely agree. All right, you want to hear my 10 out of 10 on the degenerate scale here for what I've done to try to figure out my next move?
Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think you're going to like this, and then we're going to go pivot back to DFS for tonight so you can tell us all what we should be doing on this short card. Here's my 10 out of 10, and I haven't finished it yet because it's so much data entry that I'm about ready to lose my mind, but I think it's going to be worth it. I'm going through and using an Excel spreadsheet, I am determining the most likely number of stats that my opponent is going to tabulate over the remaining 5 days this week using his players that he has right now and their average performance over the last month and how many games they have left this week. I'm going to add all of that up and try to determine who my pickup is for Jeremy Lamb, because it could go 2 different directions. If you're just looking at a best overall 9-cat guy, it might not be the best option because, let's say, your opponent, what if your opponent has a bunch of Sacramento Kings? They still have 3 games left, and maybe he has Buddy Hield. That's going to make it really hard to win 3-pointers because his best guys might still have 3 games left. Or what if his best guys only are rebounders or big guys, but they only have 2 games left? Maybe it seems like you're running up against a buzzsaw in the big man stats, but he actually only has 6 big men games left this week. So this is, I think, an interesting little midweek tool that if we have the time, and it's probably going to take an hour or 2 to punch all of this in and then run my own numbers as well, you guys can do that out there. It's not that hard. You just set up an Excel spreadsheet, make your columns for whatever categories are relevant in your league, input the numbers for the guys on your opponent's team over the last month and your team over the last month, and then sum them. And then obviously you're going to have to multiply by the number of games for each individual player, and then you can have a better idea. Because I think this is one thing that's lost in the games, total games played category, Mike, which is, your opponent might have 40 games left this week or 35 games left, but it doesn't tell you what positions they're coming from. He might have 20 of those 35 at guard and only 15 at big man. It might be a sneaky play to kind of attack where your opponent has a dearth of games played from a positional standpoint. Forget just sort of an overall number. Have you ever done anything this insane?
I've been pretty close to it. It's actually something I do with DFS, and it's kind of, I don't break it down as far as an Excel spreadsheet, but maximizing, the minutes played compared to projections that you think are going to come out. And it's not just saying a guy is going to do good, but I'm literally saying I project this guy to, maybe hit about 1.67 fantasy points per minute, average about 34 minutes. And then sometimes I even throw in the caveat, well, I might even add an extra 0.4 points per minute because it's an up-pace game. So, no, I love the science. I love the math, and the madness is why we do this. And this actually is this should be foreshadowing for next year. This sounds like a tool.
Yeah.
That we should maybe implement somehow in the off season. So I would assume it wouldn't be out there for you guys this year. I'm sorry.
No,
this sounds awesome. Though.
I haven't done it. I haven't even done it for myself yet as of this podcast. I'm still only 20% of the way through this. This was 11 o'clock at night, which I know doesn't sound that late to the average person, but when you have a toddler, your alarm clock is your toddler.
It's 3 a.m.
Yeah, you better get your ass to bed. And I thought, you know what? I could drop. This is where it came from my perspective. And I know, again, I'm making this very personal, but I assume other people are dealing with this well, with guys like Zach LaVine who've been ruled out or game time decisions. There were a bunch of game time decision guys yesterday, and most of them ended up playing, but they might miss games later in the week. Jeremy Lamb is the one that jumps out because his just happened, and he has this gap between games played. But I thought, okay, I could, if I'm jumping this guy today, There are some interesting guards out there that play 3 times. You mentioned the Wizards. There's like a Troy Brown who's been okay since he's been inserted, and if Bradley Beal misses time. If you're looking at Portland, Rodney Hood has been interesting in that last ball game. Cantor is an option. Seth Curry, if he's not already on a team, is an option. So you could go a lot of different directions with a potential 3-game pickup. But what do I need? What should I attack with that guy? It seems like Cantor has a really nice path, but is it worth it? Like, am I picking up a guy who's going to get me 25 rebounds over the next 3 games, but I'm going to get smoked in that category anyway, and I should pick up the guy who's not going to get a single rebound, but might get 4 assists per game? And that, to me, is why you build this particular spreadsheet, is to know, am I cooked in any category? Because the games over the course of the week is a big deal, but the games from what position is, I think, the bigger deal. Are they big man games or are they little man games? And that kind of changes the way you attack some stuff. So I'll try to tweet about it a little bit more as I finish this thing. And you're right, Mike, if this ends up being useful and I can format it in a way that's easily sort of week-to-week accessible, then it could be something. I don't know that anybody's going to have the time over the course of every week to punch in their opponent's projected numbers. It's just too much work to do every single week. In the playoffs, though, well, that's a different beast. All right, Mike, tell us what we need to know about DFS for tonight, because I've done zero prep. It's only a 5-game Wednesday. At a glance, Washington-Phoenix seems like the spot where you ought to just be playing all 8 guys.
It's a good spot. Yeah, we have, definitely probably one of the faster-paced games. It's, one of the games I'm going to be targeting in total. It's got 231 over-under, close spread, all the makings of a game stack. So it's in play. We have some other spots where there's tons of value. I was thinking we never have any structure. We always just run at this. You want to go, we only have a short slate. You want to just go game by game. We could just talk about each game real fast, break it down, talk about the guys I don't like, and I feel like it's gonna be nice to organize.
Let's do it, man. We got time. There's only 5 games. Let's run through it. Golden State, Memphis. That's the first one on my docket. What do you got?
Golden State, Memphis is a game where we see Memphis an uptick in pace. They're the guys that we're going to want to be targeting for me. It's we're going to want to hear about the Conley injury. That's kind of affected a ton, but Tyler Dorsey is still too cheap. If he's playing 36 minutes, he's a guy that's producing over a point per minute right now in that starting lineup, or just about under it. I'm going to be targeting him. Joe Val, it's generally not a spot I target, is centers against Golden State, but DeMarcus Cousins is playing minutes. Joakim Noah most likely out, I believe, or doubtful.
Yeah.
I don't see how this guy doesn't play another 34 minutes at least. And if this game stays close, which Memphis has a surprisingly creepy way of keeping games close, no matter who's on the court for them, no matter who's playing, who's hurt. They always keep games close.
They want to
with
win.
Golden State.
They're the anti-tank right now. They want to get outside the bottom 8 so that they can give away their late lottery pick to the Celtics and then go into a full tank next year, is what I've been reading about them. And I may have some of the details of that a little bit mucked up, so I'm not going to claim to be an expert, but I know that they've expressed in public they want to convey their pick. They want to just get it over with and then start their rebuild next year.
And then that makes perfect sense for me to just keep riding these guys. I think they're going to keep this game close enough. It's a spread of 11.5. If I'm a better,
I was going to say,
I would take that spread. And Joe Val is going to be one of my prime targets with Dorsey. Wright is still in play as well. I don't think we need to go to Bruno on DraftKings. I think he got a little bit priced up. Conley is in play if he's playing. I'm probably going to use my guard spots in other ways, but he's always in play. He's a guy that if he's playing, sometimes he plays 38 minutes. And if this game stays close, I'm going to guess as in large part due to him.
Beautiful.
Golden State, it's just play anybody you want, I guess. I'm not going overboard on any one person. If I had to play anybody, it would probably be either Cousins or Klay Thompson. The other guys are underpriced, but it's just they're all healthy. There's no reason to really target that when we have other guys that are similar prices in better spots.
Next one. What do you have next on your docket? Portland, Chicago?
Yeah, let's do Portland, Chicago, the fun one. It's fun for the bad reasons, though. I don't want to get too hyped up. I was pretty upset about seeing Nurkic is one of my guys.
That was so gross.
Yeah.
Did you see that injury when it happened? I got that like warm flush feeling, and I had to sort of look away for a sec.
Yeah, it's a feeling that we've been getting too often in basketball, I feel, over the past few years. We're seeing it's, I'm not saying it's anything due to fault like shoes or anything, but it's been an unusual amount of like leg breaks on the public stage, I guess you could say, over the past few years. And Nurkic was one of my guys since he was in Denver. And, I hope he gets back. They're saying he's going to be okay. He's going to get a titanium rod. Should be good to go by next year, and they said it should heal stronger as well, just like with Paul George's injury and Gordon Hayward's. But prayers to him. Hopefully he heals quick. But there is always, with injuries, somebody that's going to step up, and it's going to be everyone's free square chalk play, Enes Kanter tonight. 5K on DraftKings, where you can play 2 centers because there's loads of centers. So if you're playing FanDuel, there's ways to get off of it. You can pivot because there's so many other centers in good spots. But he's the free square right now on DraftKings. A lot of people are going to be on him. It makes sense to fade these guys, but it's going to be really, really hard to fade him, especially in a matchup against Chicago.
Yeah, one of the things that I think I've learned from you over the course of this year is when to just sort of roll with it and just assume everybody's going to have this guy in their lineup and think, you know what, there are a lot of times where you could go the other way and try to look for the low usage or the low owned value play. But then there are times where it's like, you know what, if somebody's going to be owned by everyone and they're going to dominate, don't fall behind by dodging that guy. And it sounds like you're saying Kanter is basically that guy.
Yeah, we have to imagine that he's going to, if not start, which I assume he starts. I mean, it makes sense bringing him off the bench, too, and keeping him into a bench role and just keeping the better defender in the starting unit. But he's going to see an uptick in minutes. He absolutely has to. And he already crushes in this kind of matchup anyway. So everything's just pointing towards him. He's underpriced. I expect him to probably be around like 63, 64 next time he's on a slate.
What about the Chicago side? Because Levine is out, or we think Levine is out. If he missed yesterday, I'm assuming he misses tonight. It's not confirmed yet. Chris Dunn, similar situation. Are we operating under the assumption those guys are not playing tonight?
I'm assuming that they're out. Laurie Markkinen's also got an illness. He's more of an actual questionable guy for me. He's underpriced as well. But, yeah, we go straight back to the value on this one. It's, Shaq Harrison, 4,900. He's small forward eligible, which makes on DraftKings a little bit of a more interesting lineup construction. Wayne Selden, 3,600. He's probably one of the guys I'd be targeting a little bit more, just given the price difference of 1,300. He'll probably be lower owned as well. And you can play him at small forward as well. Blakely's going to be in there at 3,600. He's going to still have that high usage off the bench. If he doesn't start, who knows what they do with this lineup at this point. And, Robin Lopez sneakily is going to be going against Enes Kanter. So if that happens for a little while, they might just have a little bit of a field day. He's kind of seen his price tag drop over the past few games with a little bit of a minutes cut, but there's no reason why this game shouldn't stay relatively close. And, on the other side, before we get away from it, Damian Lillard's probably my favorite play on the board tonight. I don't care about his price tag. His usage is going to be unreal with Nurkic off the court. He's already been taking 30-plus shots a game, it looks like, over the past few games. He's 100 away from Russell Westbrook, which, honestly, I think he's going to outscore Westbrook tonight, so I hope ownership goes that way. I'm going to be all over Lillard over Westbrook tonight.
Yeah, he's been going crazy, and it's only going to get more crazy now. You take the other they were a 3-headed monster, and 2 heads have been cut off, so the third one has to go big. It's a juicy matchup. They actually have a pretty good week. Portland does. Brooklyn, Chicago, at Atlanta on Friday. I mean, that could be Dame might have to score 70 in that ball game. And then at Detroit. I guess that's the only one you could call like a reasonable game. But Detroit's pace has been pretty high this year as well. Now I'm looking at a weekly thing. I know we're talking DFS, but just from a Portland standpoint, they're a pretty good streaming team this week.
Well, to be honest, from a DFS perspective, Detroit is terrible against point guards. So
hey, there you go.
Spot too. That's a great spot as well. And it's a closer game. You got to understand that he's going to be playing big minutes. So if they do see a blowout, I assume he's going to sit the last 4 or 5 minutes out anytime they possibly could. But if this game's close, he's going to play close to 40.
Portland, by the way, has 9 games left this year. Am I getting that right? I think they have 9 games left on the season. They've won their last 4 to somehow maintain hold on a top 4 spot in the West. But the Clippers are coming for them. The Rockets are coming for them. They were behind the Rockets a week ago, but so we'll see how that shakes out. And then the bottom of the West is getting weirder, but we don't need to get into that right now. Indy OKC. Maybe we should. Oklahoma City has seen themselves fall. They're into the 7 hole in the Western Conference now. It is a weird West. It's a weird, weird West. You playing anybody in this Indiana-Oklahoma City game?
No, this is probably a game I'm going to be a little bit off of. If you want to play two guys, the two guys I'd be targeting would be Paul George and Sabonis on the OKC side. Just a little bit of revenge narrative kind of thing in there. They both play well against these teams last time they played too. So they're both in play for me. They're both at fair price tags. Like I said, I'm going to try to get my edge by avoiding Westbrook tonight. Westbrook's at a very fair price. He's Russell Westbrook. I'm not saying he's going to have a bad game. I'm just thinking that Lillard for $100 less will outscore him, and that's where I'm trying to get my edge. And it's not even a great edge. It's a lot of people are going to be on the same play as me, but I'm hoping I can beat 25% of the field that takes Westbrook.
All right, I got you. Washington Phoenix. This was the big one. You talked about possible game stacking. I think we haven't heard anything yet about guys on the Washington side missing this ball game. But they're basically cooked now. Wizards are 30-45, 15 games under 500. They are officially 7 games out of the playoffs. It's done. It's done for you, Washington. So Trevor Ariza tried to play through his groin injury last night in LA. He lasted 6 minutes and then he was done. They're moving bodies around again. Scott Brooks is being goofy with his guys. Thomas Bryant is finally starting. Phoenix, they've been without most of half of their starting lineup and Kelly Oubre on top of it. I guess the question really, Mike, is who can you trust in these games? Because it's the score should be high. There should be very little defense, but who's actually going to be the one that beats their price tag?
Well, and that's exactly it. Who are the guys that you could trust is the first part, and that's what I heard, and that's what I'm taking. I'm running with that. Who's going to beat their price tag is a different story. Thomas Bryant is my favorite play, and on the Washington side, I'm just going right back to the well after everybody was on him last game. He let everybody down terribly. Burned me in a lot of lineups, and he was very chalky. So I'm hoping people still have a bad taste in their mouth. He got a little bit of a price tag. But this is a guy in this matchup. There's no reason why I don't see him playing 30-plus minutes and crushing. And at $6K, I'm jumping all over that. And, Bobby Portis, only a few $100s more than him. These guys are starting alongside of each other. They're letting them play alongside of each other. They want to see what they have in these two guys going down the stretch. So I feel confident in both of their minutes and playing time. Bryant, I like a little bit more than Portis. Portis, I'm expecting to be a little lower owned. The other guy I feel comfortable playing is Satoransky. 6,100. I'm still expecting him to play around 34 to 36 minutes, depending on how close his game stays. And it's a good matchup for point guards. So those are the 3 spots I'm primarily looking. If you wanted to go to a couple secondary options as far as, Jeff Green, I could see you doing that. Jeff Green could easily see more minutes. That's probably about it on Washington. I'm staying away from Beal ever since he's kind of seen his minutes getting scaled back a little bit. They're talking about resting him here and there. And then there's always the Troy Brown flyer. He's been playing good minutes. It's a good matchup. He can shoot a ton. But I don't think we really need to go there. I think we have better value that we already talked about, and there's probably going to be a little bit more later. So I'm going to stay away. Primarily, it's going to be Bryant, Satoransky, Portis for me. And then on the Phoenix side, it's really just 2 guys. I'm really just looking at Booker or Ayton. Those are the 2 guys that are going to get it done. It's a great matchup for both of them. Booker's been in extreme form, especially after that foul over there in Utah. He was fired up. I'm expecting him to come in more games. He had a great game against them before where I think he put up around 60 DraftKings points. So at 9,200, it might scare a few people off, but I'm still on him.
And the last one on the board, Lakers and Utah. This is a rough one. Lakers with a foolish victory in yesterday's game over the Wizards. That's no way to tank, Lakers. That was the team that you could have chased down if you wanted to move up in the standings. Lakers have won 2 games in a row now. My Laker fandom is all sorts of messy because all I wanted was for them to fully tank, and they failed. This is a nice scheduled loss. Altitude back-to-back against the Jazz. I mean, would you play anyone in this game? I got a bad feeling LeBron sits and the Lakers get blown out by the end of the second quarter.
There's only 2 people I'd play on the Lakers side, and we'd have to be absolutely sure that LeBron James is playing. Him being one, just because he's 10-1. he's a way to get off of, I guess, the Lillard chalk and still feel confident because it's LeBron James at the end of the day. They said he's going to limit his minutes. He's been playing decent minutes, though, and he's been performing great. So he's still in play. Probably still play Lillard over him in most of my lineups. If you wanted to try to hedge off that in a separate one, I don't see why not. And then if JaVale McGee keeps playing these minutes and playing like this, it's going to be hard to avoid him. He's still a fair price tag for how buck wild he's been going. 6,900. It's a risky play, though. It's the last game. At any given time, if they just pull the plug and start playing him 24 minutes, I wouldn't be shocked. But realistically, he's played 30-plus minutes in 4 out of the last 5 games. So I'm still playing him a little bit. There's, like I said, a lot of centers we're going to have on the board tonight. It's going to be tough to avoid, though. 6,900. I got to give it to Coach. I talked him off him the other night, and it was the night that he put up the career year, or career game, 33 and 20. We were talking on the phone, a little DFS. I was like, I don't know. LeBron's coming back tonight. They might run Kuzma at the 5. I'm worried we might see the minutes dip, but they haven't. So I'm starting to get on board, but I wouldn't be shocked if you wanted to, if it gets pulled. So he's a tournament play. He's risky. We have Canner out there. We have Gobert, who we're going to get to in a moment. Other guys, 8, and that we can go to Valanciunas, 4 other centers. I think I'd feel better about, but again, not shocked. Tournaments only for me, though.
Yeah, I'd be terrified to play most Lakers in this one. This is an exhausting trip. This is the kind of spot where when you are sort of tanking your end of your season away, this is where you definitely don't push your guys. What about the Jazz side? Who could get theirs even if it was a blowout?
Well, I'm looking at Rubio, who's a guy that's 5,600. It's a very fair price tag, up pace tempo. It's going to be all the makings for a good game for him. We've seen him put up these 30, 35-point games before when he's only played about 24, 25 minutes. And again, I don't ever like to build off of a blowout, especially when it's a game that can – if this game stays close, you're going to want pieces in it. You're going to lose if you don't have pieces in it if it stays close. So it's, again, make your lineup in correlation. So if you're avoiding this game, look for the guys that are going to get extra minutes or can perform in limited minutes. And for those guys on this side, it's going to be Favors and Rubio. So if I'm playing it as though it's going to be a blowout, I'm targeting Favors and Rubio. If I think it's going to stay closer, I'd most likely target Gobert and Mitchell.
All right, there you go. You got ready. Mike, when will we have the makeshift room situated?
So I'm thinking I can get it set up momentarily. 50 people is what I'm thinking. I would like to see if there was a little bit of interest, exactly how many we should do it. So maybe I'll wait an hour, after the podcast comes out and then make it. So
yeah, I would say aim low. I'd rather it just be full than risk it. So let's aim lower. Let's make sure we get that thing filled up. Maybe like 30 or 40, and then if it goes great, then we'll know we can do this again in the future.
Sounds good.
That's my
hope.
Let's do it. He's the wonderful, the magical, the mysterious Mike Apotria at Mike Apotria on Twitter. Apotria is the last name. Mike, we will see you in the makeup room tonight.
That's right.
Not to be.
Good luck, guys. No, this is my room.
Yeah, that's right.
I got to defend my room.
The makeup room. Not to be confused with the make-out room. That's a very different place to be. You won't find me or Mike there. Well, I don't know. Maybe you will, Mike. I don't know what the hell you do in your afternoons and evenings. He's Mike Apotria. Mike, we'll talk to you later.
Take it easy, Dan.
And that's your podcast, man. I take this show to stupid places, and I feel okay with that. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. We got DFS. We got some degenerate stuff going on. I will try to update folks on Twitter today as I get my little sheet resituated. I am Dan Besbris. This is Fantasy NBA Today. Big thanks again to Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company for their partnership here at The Hoob. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Back at you half-size Thursday, and then Brew on Friday. We'll wrap up the week here on the pod. Good luck tonight if you're playing the DFS. Good luck if you're in your playoffs. Doesn't matter. Good luck whatever you're doing. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.